So in the last video we saw that there are 3 different kinds of rectangle approximations that you should expect to see on the AP test. One is LRAM, and that's when you let the top left-hand corner of the rectangle touch the curve. RRAM is when you let the top right-hand corner of the rectangle touch the curve. And MRAM is when you let the middle of the rectangle touch the curve. So the top of the middle of the top. So, and just to clarify, on the AP test, they'll make it very clear exactly how many rectangles you should use and exactly which kind of approximation, left, right, or middle, that they want you to use. So here, our job is just to draw in the rectangles in this example. The first one, we've been asked to put in 6 rectangles whose left corners touch the curve. Well, here's the curve. This goes from 0 to 6. So if I'm going to have 6 rectangles, I'm going to have each one cover an x distance of 1. So that's not so bad. My first one should have its left corner touch the curve. So the first rectangle is going to cover from 0 to 1. The left-hand side of that interval is 0. So what is the function value at x equals 0 here? Well, in this case, it happens to be 0. That means I'm going to have my first rectangle have a height of 0. My second rectangle is going to have a height that's the function value when x equals 1. Draw this in so it looks like a rectangle. Alright, so the rectangle that covers 2 to 3 should have a height that matches the function value at 2. Here's the rectangle at 3. At 4, notice this rectangle. All my other rectangles were a little too small to actually fit. This one happens to be a little too big, but I have to follow that pattern. I want the left-hand corner to touch the curve. So the rectangle that goes from 5 to 6 should have a function height that matches the curve height at x equals 5. Those are the 6 LRAM rectangles if I'm going to use 6 subintervals. For this guy, I have been asked to put in 3 rectangles whose top right corners touch the curve. So 3 rectangles over an interval of 0 to 6. Each one's going to be 2 spaces wide. So my first rectangle is going to cover from 0 to 2. The right-hand side of that interval is 2. So I'm going to use a function value when x equals 2. My next rectangle needs to cover from 2 to 4. So find the function value at 4. 4 is the right-hand side of that interval. Here's the 4. And then when my third rectangle should cover from 4 to 6. So 6 is the right-hand endpoint of that interval. I'm going to come to where 6 is on the curve. I'm going to make that the height of my rectangle. That happens to be a rectangle with 0 area. Okay, third one, I've been asked to make 2 rectangles touching the curve at their midpoints. So 2 rectangles to go from 0 to 6. That means the first rectangle goes from 0 to 3, and the second rectangle goes from 3 to 6. All right, so the first rectangle is supposed to cover from 0 to 3. What's the midpoint of 0 to 3? Well, it's 1.5. So what I need to do is come in here and figure out how high the curve is when x is 1.5. Kind of looks like that. That's going to be the height of my rectangle. And then one more, I have a rectangle that covers from 3 to 6. What's halfway between 3 and 6? It's 4.5, so I'm going to come up to 4.5. Choose that as the height of my rectangle. And there are my 2 rectangles.